Chapter 31. A surge of mastery ignites as Alex unlocks a deeper level of redrepulsive force, swirling into a black and red singularity at his fingertip, now amplified far beyond before. As he stares into its growing power, memories of previous battles flash through his mind, relishing the resistance they offered. Overhearing intel about a mysterious crater and an immovable hammer, Alex connects the dots. A new challenge awaits, one that may involve a thunder-wielding exile and a living weapon soon to descend. A faint smirk forms as anticipation builds. Later, spotting Spider-Woman perched on a nearby building, Alex silently acknowledges her help in preserving the secrecy of his resistance to suppression, tech ensuring the game remains unpredictable and fun.
Thanks for your help. Next time we meet, I'll give you a gift to show my gratitude. Gwen raised an eyebrow, curious what kind of surprise the mysterious white-haired mutant had in store. Alex's charming smirk and cryptic words, "Keep looking forward to it, I'm sure you'll love it," only deepened the intrigue. She opened her mouth to respond, but he had already taken a single step forward and vanished. Watching the space where he once stood, Gwen realized she'd forgotten to ask the question lingering in her mind. How was he getting stronger so fast? "Oh well, I'll ask next time," she whispered with a smile, then leapt from the rooftop, swinging away through the city. Meanwhile, Alex didn't rush to his next destination. He made a detour to a high-end restaurant. Even though level 4 might allow him to live on energy alone, he still chose a lavish meal over efficiency. With his appetite, the bill ran into the tens of thousands, but with his current power, cost was no longer a concern. As Alex's powers grew, acquiring wealth became second nature. Leaving a restaurant with plans to head to New Mexico and seek out the Thor for some excitement, he suddenly found his path blocked by a group of familiar faces. Though they looked a little different from their movie counterparts, their unmistakable features and the fact they were together made them recognizable. Standing before Alex, blocking his way, were none other than the X-Men, including Professor X, the kindly old man in the wheelchair with overwhelming telepathic abilities. Behind him, pushing the wheelchair, stood Cyclops with his iconic visor, Phoenix with her fiery red hair, and Storm with her striking silver locks. "X-Men, what do you want with me?" Alex asked. Curious. He had no personal ties to the X-Men, aside from a shared enemy in Stryker. Professor X, however, looked at Alex with a serious expression, his mind failing to register any trace of the young man's presence. To him, Alex seemed like a void, a being completely undetectable, as though a tiny ant were standing on the back of an elephant and couldn't see the vastness of the land beneath. In that moment, Professor X realized that Alex was far more dangerous than even Jean. While he could sense her mental presence, Alex was an enigma, powers utterly beyond his reach. Softening his expression, Professor X smiled and said, "My child, I'd like to invite you to join Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. The kids here are mutants, just like you. If you join us, you'll never feel alone again. Plus, you're in serious danger right now. The government and the military have already set their sights on you. Even with your powerful abilities, you can't take them all on by yourself. If you join us, the X-Men will step in to negotiate with the government and military to clear your name." Around him, Cyclops and the others glanced at Alex with confident smiles. They knew that if the white mutant wasn't reckless, he'd definitely agree to join Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. They understood how it felt to be a mutant, hated and abandoned by the world. Mutants crave the company of their own kind. Plus, the white mutant was a wanted man. Sure, he's powerful, but facing the full might of the government and military, not to mention unknown mutants, he wouldn't stand a chance. After barely escaping a task force sent by Stryker, he knew this better than anyone. If they could bring him to Xavier's school, the professor would help him, teaching him control and guiding him away from his violent ways. Kill them! They condemn me? Still, kill them! I believe that as the death toll rises, they'll gradually realize their mistakes, change their opinions, and eventually come to the conclusion: the white mutant is a righteous and kind-hearted law-abiding citizen. Ha 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 ha! Chapter 32. Fight. Cyclops stared at Alex in shock, unable to believe the words that just came out of the white mutant's mouth. You really are a demon. Jean Grey and Storm were equally stunned as they looked at the young man in front of them. The reckless smile on his face and his cold, piercing blue eyes sent chills down their spines. This time, they finally understood what the professor had said. If the white mutant wasn't stopped, the consequences would be irreversible. Even though they knew he was gradually falling down the wrong path, hearing his unrestrained words still shocked Professor X deeply, filling him with a sense of dread that reached into his very soul. He couldn't let Alex continue on this path, or in the near future, he would become a walking catastrophe. Kill them! They condemn me? Still, kill them! I believe that as the death toll rises, they'll gradually realize their mistakes, change their opinions, and eventually come to the conclusion: the white mutant is a righteous and kind-hearted, law-abiding citizen. Ha 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 ha! Chapter 32, Fight! Cyclops stared at Alex in shock, unable to believe the words that just came out of the white mutant's mouth. You really are a demon. Jean Grey and Storm were equally stunned as they looked at the young man in front of them. The reckless smile on his face and his cold, piercing blue eyes sent chills down their spines. This time, they finally understood what the professor had said. If the white mutant wasn't stopped, the consequences would be irreversible. Even though they knew he was gradually falling down the wrong path, hearing his unrestrained words still shocked Professor X deeply, filling him with a sense of dread that reached into his very soul. He couldn't let Alex continue on this path, or in the near future, he would become a walking catastrophe. The moment hangs in the air, electric tension crackling as the white mutant's cold smile reappears, sending a wave of ominous forewarning through Professor X and the team. But isn't there another possibility? He muses, his voice dripping with chilling confidence. What if the violence wasn't enough? What if it wasn't brutal enough, not strong enough? If I were strong enough, my mere existence would silence all dissent. Just by standing there, no one would dare speak against me. Only then would true peace be achieved. The air thickens with a heavy sense of dread. Professor X's expression shifts into one of deep concern. Cyclops tenses, his hand hovering over his glasses. Storm's hair rises, and the sky darkens, lightning crackling and winds howling violently. Meanwhile, Alex's gaze sharpens, fixated on Jean Grey. A flash of red glints in her eyes as her power pulses beneath the surface. Yet, the Phoenix lies sealed within her, far from a match for Alex at this moment. The surrounding civilians flee, leaving only Alex and the X-Men standing in the middle of the storm, ready for the inevitable clash. Suddenly, the white mutant's signature cold grin reappeared, sending a chill down the spines of Professor X and the others. What if there's another possibility? He mused, his voice dripping with malice. What if the violence wasn't enough? What if the power was far from sufficient? If I were strong enough, my very existence would crush any opposition. Just by standing there, no one would dare oppose me. That's when true peace would be achieved. The air turned tense. Professor X's face tightened in alarm. Cyclops was ready to activate his visor, and Storm's hair lifted, the sky darkening with swirling lightning and fierce winds. All eyes, however, were on Jean Grey, whose gaze now burned with a flash of red, the Phoenix's power struggling against its mental restraints. The innocent bystanders fled in terror, leaving only Alex and the X-Men facing off in the middle of the chaotic street. Facing off against two Omega-level mutants, one Alpha mutant and an Omega-level telepath, Alex stepped forward, a faint smile playing on his lips. His blue eyes lit up as an immense repulsive force exploded from his body, ripping through everything around him. The ground cracked beneath his feet, spreading out in all directions, leaving only a small safe zone where the X-Men stood. Storm immediately called upon a fierce wind while Jean Grey tried to counter the overwhelming push with her telekinesis, but they could do nothing but fall back. Cyclops, sensing the urgency, removed his special glasses, firing two intense beams of laser energy straight at Alex. As the lasers neared, they slowed to a crawl, barely moving within inches of him. Alex, intrigued by the slow progress of the attack, observed the lasers with a quiet curiosity. His current ability Infinity wasn't yet perfected to block laser-based attacks completely, but it was only a matter of time. Raising a hand, Alex casually placed it in the path of the lasers, watching as they stopped dead in their tracks and began to dissipate into nothingness. Cyclops stood frozen, disbelief written across his face. How? How can he stop my lasers with his bare hands? Do you like this personality? In a sea of crimson consciousness, a figure with fiery red hair and piercing red eyes gazed through Jean Grey's vision, stunned by the sight of a white-haired figure. Professor X's analysis echoed in her mind, leaving the Dark Phoenix in disbelief. She had once struggled with the overwhelming power that came with his guidance, even despising it, but now all she could think was, what am I compared to him? Meanwhile, Alex Locke, now empowered by cursed energy, stood his ground as laser beams, capable of cutting through steel, harmlessly bounced off him. His reverse curse technique constantly healed his hand, making him invulnerable to the barrage. Notifications from the system chimed in, marking progress with every move. In a single step, Alex unleashed a massive wave of repulsive force, obliterating everything in its path. Even the combined might of Storm and Jean Grey couldn't hold their ground as they were sent crashing into debris, barely cushioned by Jean's telekinesis. The X-Men were left battered and broken, struggling to recover. Alex moved forward, undeterred. As the world around him fell apart, in a sea of crimson consciousness, a figure with red hair and eyes gazed outward through Jean Grey's perception, stunned by the sight of a white-haired figure. The shocking analysis from Professor X reverberated in her mind. The Dark Phoenix, overwhelmed by disbelief, struggled to process what she saw. For so long, she had questioned her power under Professor X's guidance, even despising its sheer force. But now, a singular thought consumed her. What am I compared to him? Meanwhile, Alex Locke, empowered by cursed energy, stood unfazed as laser beams shot at him. His body absorbed the energy, and his reverse curse technique rapidly healed his hand, allowing him to withstand the beam's onslaught, which could tear through steel. With every moment, his limitless technique surged toward leveling up as energy and experience flowed into him. Stepping forward, Alex unleashed a terrifying wave of repulsion, obliterating everything in his path. Buildings crumbled, and even Storm and Jean Grey struggled to endure the overwhelming force. The X-Men were blown away, their fall only cushioned by Jean's telekinesis, but the scattered debris still left them battered. It was an unstoppable display of raw power. Do you like this personality? The sound of shoes pounding against the ground reverberated, yet the terrifying white-haired mutant didn't stop advancing. Even though their defenses were quickly reinforced, the pressure mounted relentlessly, reaching a point where Jean Grey and Storm could barely keep it together. In this crushing moment, it felt as though the barriers they had painstakingly built would soon be obliterated by the sheer force of repulsion, leaving them vulnerable to being obliterated by the unstoppable power. Cyclops, struggling to rise from where he had fallen, fought through the agony surging through his body. With every ounce of strength, he unleashed a barrage of laser beams aimed directly at the white-haired mutant before him. Storm, mirroring the effort, summoned the wind to lift herself into the air and launched a continuous stream of lightning bolts at Alex. However, what was once a formidable defense was now effortlessly dismissed by the white-haired Omega mutant, who had previously blocked the lasers with his hand. This time, he didn't even flinch, simply grinned at them. That grin came after Alex heard the system's notification echo in his ears. Limitless Technique Experience +1. Congratulations, Limitless Technique has leveled up. Limitless Technique, Level 3, 1000. Interfere with atomic level matter, control space, and any object approaching the user will slow down, never able to touch the user. Just as the lightning and lasers were about to strike, they suddenly stopped dead in their tracks. The laser, once inching toward Alex, no longer advanced, it was now being repelled at a rapid pace. With the upgrade of the Limitless Technique, a flood of new knowledge surged into Alex's mind, and the range of his ability expanded exponentially, from 10 centimeters to 20, 30. Do you like this personality? Alex's steps echoed through the air, relentless, unwavering. Meanwhile, Jean Grey, already on the brink of collapse, could barely hold her defenses together, blood streaming from countless injuries as the pressure mounted. Her eyes, once calm, now blazed a fiery red-hurt power teetering on the edge of destruction. Professor X, seeing the potential disaster unfolding, became desperate. If Jean lost control, the battle with the white-haired mutant could level New York. With anxiety in his voice, he called out to Alex, pleading for reason. We don't want any harm. If we've wronged you, we'll leave immediately. But Alex? He didn't falter. His advance continued, indifferent to the chaos. Storm and Cyclops could only watch in horror as Jean's struggle intensified, and Alex's unyielding march threatened everything. The team knew the stakes if Jean and Alex collided. It might be the end of New York. All they wanted was to recruit Alex, but now, in the face of impending catastrophe, they regretted every moment of it. And as for mercy? They didn't believe Alex, known for his reckless nature, would show any. Alex's steps echoed through the chaos, showing no sign of slowing down. Meanwhile, Jean Grey, struggling to keep up her defense, was trembling, her body battered with wounds, blood seeping from her injuries. Her strength was fading, her pupils shifting to a fiery red on the verge of a dangerous eruption. Seeing this, Professor X grew desperate. Jean lost control now. Her fight with Alex could destroy New York. Pleading for calm, the professor called out to Alex, "We mean no harm. If we've offended you, we'll leave right now." But Alex's relentless advance didn't falter. As Storm and Cyclops noticed Jean's worsening state, despair began to settle in. They had no idea who would win in a clash between Jean and Alex, but they knew the outcome was grim, and so was New York's fate. Who would have thought that a simple attempt to recruit Alex would spiral into a catastrophe like this? Now, trapped in this mess, they regretted their actions, but it was too late. The disaster was inevitable, and Alex wasn't known for showing mercy. Did he just awaken a new mutant power? Or has it always been there, hidden until now? Cyclops had never encountered a mutant with such a diverse range of abilities before. Storm, standing nearby, nervously commented, "It's terrifying. If his powers keep growing unchecked, won't there come a point where no one can stop him?" Professor X fell silent at her question, unsure of how to respond, only managing to say, "That's why we must guide him onto the right path." Cyclops, sensing the weight of the situation, asked, "How do we even do that?" The room fell silent as everyone mulled over the impossibility of finding the right answer. Meanwhile, high above the earth, Alex walked effortlessly through the air, each step spanning hundreds of meters. During the earlier confrontation with the X-Men, Alex had chosen to retreat for two reasons. First, Jean Grey. With the power of the Phoenix Force, one of the universe's most terrifying entities, could easily overwhelm him. The Phoenix Force was a primal force, capable of reshaping existence and bending time and space to its will. With its ability to traverse dimensions and manipulate the very fabric of reality, it was an entity that hovered near omnipotence. Do you like this personality? Did he just awaken a new mutant power? Or has it always been there, hidden until now? Cyclops had never encountered a mutant with such a diverse range of abilities before. Storm, standing nearby, nervously commented, "It's terrifying. If his powers keep growing unchecked, won't there come a point where no one can stop him?" Professor X fell silent at her question, unsure of how to respond, only managing to say, "That's why we must guide him onto the right path." Cyclops, sensing the weight of the situation, asked, "How do we even do that?" The room fell silent as everyone mulled over the impossibility of finding the right answer. Meanwhile, high above the earth, Alex walked effortlessly through the air, each step spanning hundreds of meters. During the earlier confrontation with the X-Men, Alex had chosen to retreat for two reasons. First, Jean Grey. With the power of the Phoenix Force, one of the universe's most terrifying entities, could easily overwhelm him. The Phoenix Force was a primal force, capable of reshaping existence and bending time and space to its will. With its ability to traverse dimensions and manipulate the very fabric of reality, it was an entity that hovered near omnipotence. Do you like this personality? Despite Jean Grey only possessing a fraction of the Phoenix Force, it was enough to make her an Omega-level mutant with immense power. Alex, unsure if his limitless technique could withstand the Phoenix's ability to disassemble matter, or if his reverse curse technique could regenerate faster than the Phoenix could destroy, decided it wasn't worth the risk. Meanwhile, a showdown between the X-Men and Colonel Stryker seemed inevitable. Alex had previously asked Tony Stark to locate Stryker, but the Colonel, knowing he was a target, had gone into hiding. Even Tony's resources couldn't track him down. Next, Alex turned to S.H.I.E.L.D., only to face the same result. Realizing that Stryker, with his deep hatred for mutants, would likely strike at the X-Men, Alex decided to use them as bait to lure him out. Now, it was all about waiting for Stryker to take the bait. He checked his reflection in the glass and couldn't help but grin. "I knew it! Tom and the others were just jealous of how awesome I look," he thought, his ego inflated. Ignoring his own overconfidence, Alex approached the strange group at the table, where Thor and his companions were eyeing him curiously. After tracking down this small town with some help from S.H.I.E.L.D. in the first Thor movie, Alex had decided to rest and found Thor and the others at a diner straight out of the film. With a bright grin, he sat down, noticing the confused glances. "Hey everyone, nice to meet you. I'm Alex, but you can call me White." Some prefer the white mutant or white hair, but hey, white works just fine. He glanced at his reflection in the glass, feeling like he was the epitome of style. I knew it. Everyone's just jealous of how incredible I look, he mused. Ignoring his self-praise, Alex sauntered over to the odd group, plopping down at the table with Thor and his companions, who were eyeing him with curiosity. Thanks to his research and a little help from the authorities, Alex had tracked down this small town. After a day of rest at a hotel, he found Thor and his crew at a diner from a movie and decided to join them. As he sat down, noticing their puzzled expressions, he flashed a wide grin. Hey everyone, good to meet you. I'm Alex, but you can call me Whitesome. People prefer to call me White Mutant or White Hair if you feel like it. Can I get to know you all? Hearing Alex introduce himself, everyone except Thor burst out laughing. Jane Foster, Thor's future girlfriend, chuckled and said, You're the White Mutant? What a coincidence. We've got a Norse god of thunder right here. She turned to Thor, teasing him with a smile. Isn't that right, Thor? Thor, who had been dismissed by everyone as just another madman after losing his powers, suddenly felt a strange bond with this weak human who actually recognized him. That's right, I am Thor, son of Odin. You've got a sharp eye. When I reclaim Mjolnir and return to Asgard, I'll reward you handsomely. Alex's grin grew wider. Thank you, Prince Thor. Seeing the two of them chatting so easily, the others at the table couldn't help but laugh. One Thor was already a handful, and now there was another one. At that moment, Thor recalled Alex's introduction and, noticing the reactions around him, asked curiously, Are you famous? Why is everyone staring at you? Before Alex could say anything, Jane Foster stepped in explaining, He's pretending to be a really famous character. It took Thor a moment to catch on, but when he did, he let out a booming laugh, turning to Alex and saying, That White Mutant must be pretty weak. You should cosplay as me, the mighty Thor. That would be way cooler. As Thor patted him on the back, Alex stayed quiet, his smile growing deeper and more mysterious. Suddenly, a middle-aged man behind the restaurant counter spoke to his friend. You missed a real show. A satellite crashed in the desert, and we were watching it when some investigators showed up. Jane, intrigued, asked, Did you say a satellite fell in the desert? The man nodded. Yes, he replied. Professor Eric Selvig, sitting nearby, leaned in, asking, What did this satellite look like? The man answered, I don't know much about satellites, but it's heavy. No one can lift it. At that, Thor sprang into action, grabbing the man's shoulder and demanding, Where is it? The man, startled, answered, 50 miles west from here. As Thor exited the diner, the man behind the counter gave a friendly warning. Don't bother, though. The military's already there. But Thor ignored the advice and confidently strode out. Jane and her companions followed, leaving Alex behind. Yet, Alex wasn't in any rush. He calmly ordered an egg tart and savored it slowly. Finally, stepping out of the diner, he saw Jane offering Thor a ride from a nearby pet store. Want a lift, she asked? As Thor slid into the passenger seat, a familiar, smooth voice suddenly called out, Mind if I join you? They turned to see the white-haired young man from the diner, tapping on the window and flashing a bright grin. Oh, sure, but we're heading into something really dangerous. Are you sure you want to come along? Jane asked. With a confident nod, he replied, Yes. Alex grinned enigmatically. I wouldn't miss the chance to meet the legendary Thor. As they headed to their destination, Jane asked Thor, I've never done anything like this before. How about you? Thor flashed a knowing smile. Many times. Before he could elaborate, the white-haired man in the back seat interjected, I've done this plenty of times too. It's no big deal. Thor, intrigued, turned to Alex. Oh, Alex, what have you done? With a confident tone, Alex replied, I've taken down a gang stronghold, escaped military and mutant forces, destroyed mechs, fought monsters, and recently had a showdown with the X-Men in New York, almost leveling the city. Thor was taken aback, stunned by Alex's bold claims. But then he remembered Alex was cosplaying as the White Mutant. Could these feats really be his? Jane chuckled. You two are hilarious. One thinks he's the White Mutant, and the other thinks he's Thor. Before she could finish, Thor cut her off. I am Thor, not someone who thinks he's Thor. Once I regain my powers, you'll see everything. Jane, recalling their first meeting when Thor fell from the sky, noted the seriousness in his eyes. Alex replied with a grin. I wouldn't miss meeting the legendary Thor. As they traveled, Jane turned to Thor saying, I've never done anything like this before. How about you? Thor smirked, plenty of times. Before he could elaborate, the man in the back seat, white-haired and cool, added, "Oh, I've been through this a lot." "No big deal." Intrigued, Thor asked, "Alex, what have you done?" Alex casually listed, "I've taken down a gang stronghold, escaped from military and mutant forces, destroyed massive mechs, fought terrifying monsters, and recently faced off against some heroes in New York, almost bringing the city down." Thor was stunned, impressed, but also questioning, was this the white mutant cosplayer pulling off all these feats? Jane chuckled. "You two are a riot tone, thinks he's the white mutant. The other thinks he's Thor." Thor, instantly serious, interrupted, "I am Thor, not some wannabe. When I get my powers back, you'll see." Jane's mind drifted back to when she first met him falling from the sky. "Is this conversation helpful so far?" Jane stopped him with a serious look. "You think you can just waltz in, take our stuff, and leave?" Thor flashed a confident grin. "No, I'm going to fly out." And before Jane could even respond, Thor charged straight toward the military base. The sky suddenly rumbled with thunder, and a flash of lightning lit up the world. In that moment, Thor clashed through the agents, his power unmistakably starting to resemble the God of Thunder. As he fought, Jane's worry grew. A voice, playful and magnetic, came from beside her. "Don't worry, even if Thor can't get his power back, I've got it covered." Jane froze, skeptical. While she might be coming around to the idea that Thor really was the God of Thunder, there was no way she believed Alex could be the White Mutant. He wasn't even in the right location. And the White Mutant was cold and ruthless, nothing like the mischievous Alex. As Thor continued his battle, making his way to Mjolnir, he grabbed the hammer, full of confidence, yet nothing happened. He tried again, still nothing. Despite giving it his all, Thor couldn't lift the hammer after several attempts. Exhausted and defeated, he collapsed to the ground with a cry of despair. Jane, witnessing his failure, turned and began walking toward the vehicle, likely to seek help. But before she could go any further, a tall figure with white hair blocked her path. Alex stood before her, a mischievous grin on his face, but there was something unsettlingly different about him. The once playful smile had turned cold, making him seem like a stranger. His eyes locked onto Jane with a chilling gaze as he spoke. His voice now was cold as his expression. "I told you, I'm still here." Without a hint of urgency, the White Mutant casually walked past her, hands in his pockets, heading toward the military base ahead. Agents, still on high alert from Thor's earlier intrusion, immediately noticed him. Some moved to intercept, but as they got closer and saw his appearance, they hesitated. One agent, recognizing him, whispered in terror, "White hair, blue eyes, she's the White Mutant." The agents knew the White Mutant was a force of pure unpredictability. Unlike the X-Men, who pushed for peace, or the Brotherhood, who sought power, the White Mutant had no clear agenda, only a dangerous whim that made him the most volatile of them all. One agent questioned, "Isn't he supposed to be in New York? Could this be someone else?" Doubt spread, but as the white-haired figure approached, uncertainty vanished. Alex stepped forward, unleashing the overwhelming force of his red, sending agents flying. The alarm blared, and the radios crackled with urgency. "White Mutant is attacking!" This time, the agents wasted no time, quickly arming themselves to face the threat. From his vantage point, Hawkeye, who had been monitoring Thor's earlier assault, heard the alarms blaring in his earpiece. "Do you like this personality?"